All right, welcome back to the Ottawa Studios inside my canoe head. I am your host, Dr. D. Today, we are talking about saving yourself first. What a crazy idea in preparedness. So sit back, grab yourself your favorite beverage. Let's get at her. Welcome back on this glorious emerging spring. I don't know where you are in this country. Some parts out west in northern Ontario are just under deluges of snow. And, well, you know, I feel bad for you, but I'm cleaning the golf club. So I hope the emergence of spring, whenever it comes to you, brings you joy and happiness. Listen, we are closing out this 8th week of the 10 weeks of practical preparedness, talking about not being a liability to your future self. Right? So the first episode we did this week talked about the importance of taking care of you, not being a liability, normative versus positive. We spoke about the fact that no one is coming to help you. Nobody's coming to unscrew your personal situation. And it's time for you to invest in what matters and to look at the fact of what's within your control. Forget the idea of victimization. You're not oppressed. People are not holding you back from being successful and then making some important decisions about your future. And we got a lot of great feedback about that. And not all of our feedback here at Inside My Canoe Head is positive, right? Let's be honest. Not everybody agrees with the position I take, and that's good. Because what I'm trying to do is stir debate, fire up some people, get people jammed up and excited and angry and whatever you may be. Because when we strike an emotional chord, sometimes that is the impetus and the catalyst for discourse. And when we have more discourse, more discussion, more debate, more argument, especially in the politically charged and culturally charged climate we live in today, we get better results. When people stop talking, we start hating each other. When people stop talking, we start losing the vision of each other as humans with just different perspectives. So today we want to focus on the fact that the Stoics quite clearly said, very little is within your control. And that is precisely all you need. And it's really that simple. When you think about what it is you're responsible for, what your world looks like, we use the adage that your job is in the mirror first, then family, and then community. And that's based on the idea is it must be in that order to be useful to the next. If I don't take proper care of myself as a human being, that incredible thing that looks back at me every morning in the mirror, if I don't take efforts to take care of that, then as much as I want to, and as much as I love and care about, I will be ineffective at taking care of my family, right? And I happen to love and care for my family, and I'm sure all of you do as well. And you can't, no matter what you think you're doing, you are ineffective in emergencies. You are ineffective in chaotic times if you are not able to take care of yourself first, because then you become a liability to your future self and a liability to your family. And then finally, your community. If you can't take care of your family and right your family ship, then you are not going to be in a position to step up and take care of your community. And as a community, this is how we successfully navigate all these exogenous shocks and things that happen. We do that together as a sense of community, but you can't do that if you can't take care of your family, because you can't step up and assume a leadership role or an important role or a contributory role to elements of your society if you have to turn around and worry about the safety, security, and happiness and healthiness of your own family. You will be distracted. It's kind of akin to when I was in the Army, I tried to spend a disproportionate amount of time understanding my soldiers and their family concerns. I was worried when there was marital trouble in my ranks. Why? Because when a soldier's having difficulty at home, be it financial, emotional, relationship, they are less effective on the battlefield. And you think it's just a day job. Well, no, it's not. And we would take these things seriously. Because when I'm on the battle space in Afghanistan, as I did a couple of times, or whatever the next country is, and we're running convoy operations, I want to make sure that Driver Corporal X is focused on the task at hand and not worried about bills being paid at home or his son's sickness, right? So when those things pop up, we want to know, not because the individual's in trouble, because I want to swing in with every damn thing I've got to help that individual. I can't do that if I don't take care of me. I can't be that effective leader. And so the ground of everything you do in preparedness, and I would argue the rest of your life, and we're going to get near the end of this episode into strategic planning for life, you are not going to be helpful to anybody, irrespective of what you believe today, unless you take care of yourself, right? You have access to all the knowledge of humanity right now. This little device you're listening to me on, whether it be the car radio, but probably more than likely based upon analytics, it's at a desktop computer or a mobile phone. But with that device, you have the access to the knowledge of humanity. So why is stopping you? Why are people not doing it? And the difference is many people talk about a lot of things. They even promise it, and few will execute it, right? There's always a group of people who are talking about it. And we see this in your New Year's resolutions that happen every year. And you know what? I make them, but I actually don't start mine till the 15th of January, just because it's so hard along with everybody else, because it looks like groupthink and group mentality. But the idea being is that's a representative of the fact that we understand there are things that we need to take care of and that we can improve upon, and they're within our control to do, but there's always this executable difficulty. And the difference is simple. Like, I had a plan, right? When I retired from the Army, I had 3 things that I wanted to do. I wanted to be a published author, I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I wanted to be a professor, okay? I also started a podcast during the pandemic, but I stuck with the podcast, right? And it's that old adage of, when you start a podcast, people don't start them because they're worried about sucking and people not caring. Well, guess what? When you first start out a podcast, it doesn't matter if you suck because nobody's listening, right? I can show you the analytics from inside my canoe head when we started in April of 2020. The first month, I had 5 downloads. 4 of them were family members. Someday I'm going to find out who that magical human was somewhere in the world who downloaded my podcast episode, right? But I literally had 5. Month 2, I put out like 7 episodes. I had 28 downloads. And I think about half of those were family, okay? So I could have sucked, and I probably did, but nobody was paying any attention, right? But I stuck with it. We're coming up on our 250th episode next week. We have over 11,000, just over 12,000 downloads in 58 countries around the world. We are not even ranked anywhere. We were in the top 100 in the United Arab Emirates, and we were in the top 20 in Kenya. Why? I don't know. These things happen. I just smile and wave when they do. But it's consistency. It's sticking with it when nobody cares and nobody's paying attention, right? So it's a lot simpler than you think and a lot harder than other people imagine. And we talk about it in theory and academia as operationalization. It is the translation of doing from saying. It's really that simple. It's not any more complicated than that. It is, I'm saying and I'm telling people that I am going to do things, and then I turn around and operationalize them and actually do it. So when we think about you and we think about taking care of number 1 with you, we simplify this in our book, Preparedness Simplified, Book 1, The Beginning. It's available on our website, preparednesslabs.ca, and on Amazon. It's a $7 ebook. There's a free snippet download if you don't want to buy the $7 ebook. The 3-page free download is available on our website at preparednesslabs.ca. Just hop over there. And while you're there, sign up for our free newsletter. Drops every Wednesday, talks about what's going on in the world of preparedness. But in that book, we talk about three simple things, right? You are made up of three areas that are important to make you capable of dealing with the world around you. The first is your physical self, your mental health, and your financial health. Those are the three things that are within your control, absolutely and unequivocally, for you to get in order. The reason being is the next time a significant disruption happens, a calamity, a disaster, or a very challenging emergency, you want to be fit, calm, zero or near zero anxiety and stress, and have some cash in the bank. Really, that's how you want to approach it versus being unfit, overweight, stressed to the nines, and broke. That's not how you want to attack and approach an emergency, right? You see the difference there. So we start with physical health. It's always the one that I start with because physical health feeds your mental health. They always tell you the number one thing for mental health is exercise, right? It's not drugs, it's not therapy, it's exercise. So when we look at your physical health, simplify it to very things. So look at yourself in the mirror. And I like to use that analogy because it's difficult to lie to your own face. There are three things in the world, and you've got to ask yourself how you are. What is your diet, your sleep, and your exercise like? Those are the three things you need to tackle, and you just need to do very, very simple things. I am not an expert. If you follow this advice, you're following it of a podcaster, not an expert. Please, before you begin any physical fitness or nutritional campaign, to get appropriate expert advice. That is a legal disclaimer that's required before I step off. First is diet. Eat food. It's really that simple, folks. I don't care whether you're a pescatarian, vegetarian, carnivore diet, omnivore diet, herbivore diet, organic only diet, like none of that matters. I don't care. Your recipe is to eat food. Food has a single ingredient. Anything that has two ingredients is considered a manufactured good that's reasonably digestible by the human animal. So if it has an ingredients list, you don't eat it. If it has a single ingredient, you eat it. If nature created it on its own, eat it. Full stop. That simple. It's not challenging. Your sleep. You need to get 7-8 hours of sleep a night. If you're challenged for doing that, it's very, very difficult for you to force yourself to go to sleep, right? It's hard to lay down and go, I'm going to change my bedtime to 10 o'clock. I'm a Superman. I'm going to go lay down in bed. And you just lay there and you stare at the ceiling and your mind runs 100 miles an hour, right? The easiest thing to do is wake up early. And the reason waking up early is you're going to force the sleep to come. So if you get up at, some people go 4:35. I think you're all smoking crack. I get up, let's just say 6 o'clock every morning you get up, right? And then you don't consume caffeine after noon. You will fall asleep at night if you have an active day. And if you do that 7 days a week, every single day you're up at 6 o'clock in the morning and tackling the day, and you don't drink caffeine after noon, you will start sleeping. It's really that simple. And if you eat just food and not manufactured goods, then you'll start sleeping. And the last one is exercise. Listen, join a gym if you want to. Have a great time. I'm talking about the zero spend idea here, folks. Very, very simple. Walk. Your body was meant to move. It was designed by nature or a religious figure, if you believe that, to move. Your body is meant to move. You need to physically move. And it's really simple as I need to walk 45 minutes to an hour every day. Yeah, absolutely. Get out and walk. And that walk needs to be outside in nature, right? Because you are an animal, part of the environment. Dress appropriately for the nature. If it's pouring rain, put a rain jacket on. Take an umbrella. You're still going out for that walk. That's it. I'm literally telling you, if you do nothing but eat just real food and dump all the manufactured goods, get up at 6 a.m. every day and don't have caffeine past noon, and you walk 1 hour a day. If you were to just do that for 30 days, you will literally transform yourself. You will feel like a new human being, and it has cost you absolutely nothing. And I'm happy to argue with anybody out there who thinks that real food is more expensive than the manufactured goods. You're full of it. Bullocks, I say. Absolutely garbage. And we'll leave it at that because I'm sure people would love to argue with me, but you're wrong. Then once you take care of your physical health, when we think about your mental health, if you want to fight the world is chaotic, it's crazy, it's full of stress and anxiety. I am not your therapist, but what I would strongly recommend is that you sit back and do the things that are within your control. And what we talk about here at Inside My Canoe Head, and we have this in our book as well, and it's in our video course that's available on preparednesslabs.ca. We have a video course on adopting a prepared life. It's $129 Canadian and a lot less American. But from your mental health, the first thing you do is you have to have your come to Jesus moment. And what I mean about that for the non-religious people is you have to sit down and assess the situation as is, as best you can. Okay, and it's done this way. I use a whiteboard. I love my whiteboard. If you follow me here, I love my whiteboard. Get a piece of paper or whatever. The reason I like using a whiteboard is I can erase it, but don't spend any money. Again, preparedness is free. It doesn't cost any money. I'm not going to tell you to buy stuff, except for stuff I have to sell. That's a joke. You're supposed to be laughing. When you look at the whiteboard, you make 3 columns, right? And on the left-hand column is commitments. And these are things that you're committed to in life that you have to. That's like work, family, stuff that you can't get around, stuff that you must do. The second column is organizations. This is every organization that you belong to, that you're a membership of, and that you have some type of time commitment to, right? You're just making a list. And the right-hand side are all of the people that you interact with on a regular basis. If you were to say, these are my friends, these are the people that if you spend at least 10 or 15 minutes with these people every week, you list the people. So when you're done, you're looking at your life. You're looking at all your mandatory commitments that you've made because you've got to work, you have family, you have et cetera. And then in the middle column, you have all of your commitment, the organizations that you belong to, the things that you do, et cetera. And on the right-hand side, you have all the people that are part of your life, right? So now the assessment part is, you are going to look at each one of those and make a gut call. On balance, do these people bring more joy than drama in your life? Do the organizations bring more joy or stress in your life? Do your commitments bring joy and stress? Now, you have to look at work. If work is driving you absolutely nuts, then it's a stressor and you got to annotate it. Now, obviously, you can't quit because you have to pay the rent. But that does give you the idea that if this job is a principal stressor in my life, I can't commit to continue to do this job anymore. Now, I'm not going to quit and go on the streets, but I'm now going to have to look at that significantly and decide how I'm going to find myself alternate employment. And what you're doing here is you're doing a no poop assessment as to where the sources of anxiety and stress exist in your life, right? This is just a visualization assessment. These are all of the activities and the people that you do in the run of your life, and you've just labeled the ones that on balance bring you more drama and stress than joy. You've just gone through a visual exercise that for some people is life changing because you can visually see where your stress comes from. The second thing you're going to do is pull up your calendar. And I want you to fill out your calendar with everything in commitment that you do. And I want you to look at it, right? You have to visualize the difference between time that is white space, as we call it, that is not committed to anything, and time that is committed to something in your wakey hours. And the last thing is you're going to have to deal with toxic humans, right? You've got that list on the right-hand side and people that bring you on balance more drama than joy, and you have to start consideration of who do I fire? You may have to fire friends, family members, siblings, and in some pretty extreme cases, you may have to fire parents. The point being is you are responsible for your own mental health. You are responsible for your own level of stress and anxiety. And when you look at things, whether they be commitments, organizations, or people that you voluntarily brought into your life, and they are on balance bringing you more drama and struggle than joy, they need to be let go. And we're not talking about the Walmart greeter give me the microphone and a big blah, blah, blah. We're talking about the quiet quitting. And that just means you answer their text intentionally 48 hours later, 2 days later, a day later. You just stop communicating with these people, right? You don't block them on social media. I mean, this is not a big campaign. Look at me. I'm taking care of myself, blah, blah, blah. No, this is you standing up and saying, listen, and this is what I say to my son when he was going through high school and a lot of bullying that occurred. I said, listen, it is a privilege to be in a relationship with you, an absolute privilege. And you have to understand that. Surround yourself by people whose faces light up when you walk into the room. That is a standard that you should have. And people who don't meet that standard, I would suggest to you that you need to consider as to whether they should remain in your life. Again, I'm not a psychologist, but those are the three things, those are the two principal things that you have within your control. Is your time allocation, and that calendar is brutally important because remember, and if you're going to read a book, I would go read the book Essentialism by Greg McKeown. It's been out several years now, so it's probably pretty cheap. You can find it in a used bookstore. And he really talks about the idea that every single thing you're asked to do, it should be a joyful, enthusiastic, unquestionable yes. Otherwise, it's a flat out no, right? And if somebody wants an answer from me like, hey, listen, can you do this right now? My answer is no. It doesn't matter what it is, and it doesn't matter who they are. I am a very quick no and a long yes. So if you want me to say yes to being committed to something, I'm going to take the time. I'm going to assess it. I'm going to see if it's valuable, if it fits in with what I want to do, my life, my strategy. The point being with your mental health is you voluntarily allow people and organizations and commitments into your life that bring you joy. You also have to make sure that you have enough calm and downtime for yourself, which means that's why I use the calendar as my single only planning tool. And I use the free Google Calendar that comes on my smartphone. So it doesn't cost me any money. I don't need a special program. So every single commitment I have goes in the calendar. If I think writing this letter for you is going to take 2 hours to do it properly, I will create an appointment for 2 hours and put it in the calendar because time is the one asset I can't buy more of, right? It doesn't matter how wealthy I ever get. I can't buy more time. It is the most important commodity I have. And you as an individual need to guard that religiously. It is a privilege to be in a relationship with you, and it is a privilege to have access to your time. That's not arrogant. That's putting yourself first, right? Take care of you first so that you're able to take care of your family. It's really that simple. And firing toxic humans is a joyous experience if you ever go down that road. I'll just leave it at that. The third one is financial self. And this one, especially in today's world of high prices, escalating inflation, high housing costs, people are really challenged with this. The end result here is you have a responsibility. Actually, you have a duty. If you have anybody else who's responsible, who you're responsible for, or if you care about yourself, you must live below your means. You must run out of month before you run out of money. It doesn't matter your situation. It doesn't matter what's going on. It doesn't matter your circumstances. You must live below your means. And what we recommend here, and again, we are not financial experts here at Inside My Canoe Head Preparedness Labs Incorporated. We give advice based upon personal situations. If you want to make changes to your financial plan, we recommend that you seek out a licensed financial planner. With that in mind, our recommendation is always to live on no more than 80% of your income. Full stop. Your life, you live. How you choose to live it is 100% up to you in a free and democratic society. But I'm going to recommend to you it should never cost more than 80% of your take-home money. Right? I had this argument with somebody. I live in the second largest city in Ontario. It's a province in Canada. So Toronto's the number one at about 4 to 6 million if you take the whole GTA, the general area around Toronto. And the city of Ottawa, where I live, is we're just over 1 million people, right? Minimum wage is the same in both those towns, right? So if you're decided that you want to choose a career that works at minimum wage, and that's fine, you have every right to do that. And then you want to live in the most expensive city in Ontario, you're the dumbass, right? Let's be honest. Because you can live the life earning the same minimum wage in a smaller town with far lower rents and far lower cost of living in the province of Ontario if you choose to live, if you choose to work in an industry that pays at or near minimum wage. If you've then made the conscious decision to live in a really expensive place, well, then obviously you're going to have roommates. My first apartment was 4 guys in a bachelor apartment, 4 beds in the 4 corners staring at each other. Imagine the entitled generation now telling them that that's a good start point. And then when you get a little bit more money, we moved up to sharing bedrooms, right? It was really cool when we got to the point where the 2 of us each had we had a 2-bedroom place, but there was 2 of us in each bedroom. That was really cool. We had really started to make it and earn some money. Imagine telling the generation today that there's no entitlement to your own apartment or to your own residence or your own bedroom. They will just think that that's poor standard and it's somebody else's job to provide them with all this wonderful cheap housing, etc. I'm not going to go down that road. The road being is whatever means you've chosen to earn, whatever job you've chosen to do has a requisite salary range, or not requisite, has a salary range that goes along with it. You've chosen that employment. If that salary range is insufficient to fund the type of life you want, it is your responsibility to gain knowledge and skill sets that increase that. It is not somebody else's responsibility to increase the wage range for the job that you've chosen. That's personal responsibility, right? But so if you learn to do that, the next one is a pivot plan. And this is actually kind of tied into what we call our trifecta of preparedness plans. So here at Inside My Canoe Head, we have a strategy for 3 preparedness plans that each family should have to give you the foundation for your basic family and household emergency preparedness plan. And the third one is financial loss, because I argue that losing your job and getting fired is just as impactful as your house burning down, especially if you live in a family where you've decided to earn one income or one principal income, and then somebody comes into work that day and you're fired. Maybe you're fired for just cause because you're a goofus, or maybe that wildfire that came through town missed your home, but it burned down your place of work. Look at the pandemic. Great people doing great work for healthy companies got fired on the spot. It is your responsibility to have a plan in place as to what you will pivot to when you get fired, right? Everybody's leaving the current job. You're either going to die, you're going to retire, you're going to quit, or you're going to get fired. So you will leave this job you're in at some point. So it is your responsibility to have that detailed, accurate plan as to exactly what you intend to do. That's the point of having a pivot plan. When I get fired, I'm going to go do this. It will take me a month or 2 to get that up and running. If it's going to take me 2 months to get up and running, then I'm going to have 2 months of basic expenses stuck aside, aka your emergency fund, right? And the last one is retirement. Right now in Canada, and I can only speak to our Canada pension plan here, it's being upgraded. So if you're younger, you'll do better in that it'll be roughly 33% of your maximum earned income. If you contribute throughout your whole life is what your Canada pension plan will be. But 33% of your working income is probably not the retirement everybody has to dream. So again, it is your responsibility to fund your retirement. It's not the government's, right? So right now, as you're working, when you live below your means, you create some space to create some form of retirement account. Now, we have podcast episodes in season 6, 7, and 8 all about financial planning, our recommendations for it. Seek a financial planner. But understanding personal responsibility and taking care of yourself, looking at that incredible person in the mirror from a financial perspective, you say, hey, I'm going to live below my means. I'm going to have a pivot plan. So in case this principal source of income I have goes away, I know exactly what I'm going to do next, and that I understand and accept responsibility to fund my retirement. So now I'm going to sit down and figure out how to do it. None of that cost any money. None of it. None of the 9 things that I just mentioned, 3 for physical health, 3 for mental health, and 3 for financial health. None of those 9 cost any money. In fact, they're likely to save you a considerable amount of money from what you're currently spending. Those 9 things are within your control. As I said at the beginning of the episode, the Stoics say very little is within your control, and that is precisely all you need. If you take those 9 things, accept responsibility for them, spend 0 amounts of money, but put time and energy into rectifying each one of those, you, my friends, my listeners, you will have a far better quality of life. You will be taking care of yourself, which means when the shizzy hits the fizzy and the world goes pear-shaped, you will be in a far better place to help those whom you love and for whom you are responsible. And then once you take care of our next step, which is your strategic plan, which sets your family up for longer-term success, you're able to step up and take a leadership and a contributory role to your community. And for your strategic idea, we've got a whole series of episodes in the last season, in season 8, about how to set up a family strategic plan. But I'm going to encompass it here in a couple of minutes, and then we'll wrap it up for the day. Your strategic plan is about translating dreams to goals, translating goals to plans, translating those plans to executable chunks, and translating those executable chunks to calendar appointments. It's that simple. It's a process by which you first identify where you want to be. And again, we use the same things of the physical health, the mental health, the financial health, but then we add 2 other categories of relationships and professional. So you're going to put on the left-hand side of your whiteboard, again, my favorite whiteboard, you're going to put 5 titles: my physical health, my mental health, my financial health, my relationship health, and my professional status or my professional life. On the left-hand side, that's the "it is what it is" column, right? That's where you're just going to lay it out. I'm fat, I'm overweight, I'm out of shape, I eat poorly, I'm stressed to the nines, I'm broke as you know what, broke AF. My relationship with my spouse is breaking down and I'm on the verge of getting fired. Whatever it may be, like, you have to be honest. None of this strategic planning is about blaming yourself. It's not about slapping yourself in the face. It's not about going boo-hoo, boo me. It's about having that honest, no-poop assessment with the incredible person in the mirror and writing down where you are. Your 1, 5, and 10-year strategic plan lays out, where do I want to be in a year, right? And I want, like, for example, I'm into translatable things. So my 1-year plan that I'm on right now is very simple for my physical health, right? I do it in measurable things. I want to be able to do 50 push-ups without stopping, 10 pull-ups without stopping. I want to hold a plank exercise or a plank for 5 minutes, and I want to weigh under 180 pounds. I can't do any of those things right now. So on the left-hand side, I've got an assessment of what my world looks like right now, and I'll save you the embarrassment of telling you what that does. But on the right-hand side, I know exactly what my physical health is like. I know exactly the amount of sleep and exercise I get now and what I want to do in the future, right? So it's a vision boarding. It's about putting out all of these categories, and then there's a gap in between the 2 columns, right? So that gap is now what are the gates that I need to go through, right? So I weighed 237 pounds. I want to get to 180, okay? That's a 57-pound weight loss, right? So the gates aren't, I'm going to lose 57 pounds. The gates are, I'm going to lose 10 pounds 5 times, right? So I wrote numbers across the board. What do I have to do to get to 235? What do I have to do to get to 220? What do I have to get to 205? You see, I laid out these gates along a line to take me to 1 year from now, I'm going to be 180 pounds. And then in between each one of those gates, I had a plan. You see how it's now breakdown? You've taken your strategic, you've laid out where you are, where you want to be, you've laid out the steps that are along the way, and then each one of those dashes between the gates or the decision points along the way, you have a little bit of plan. It's a visualization tool because what you do to be successful, and this is the summation of all of those great self-help books you get out there, it's the operationalization of intent. I want to be smarter. I want to be healthier. I want to be rich. Okay, that's great to say, but what are the exact and specific steps to take? That's where people fall off. If you follow the strategic plan, you learn to translate a dream to a goal. I want to be wealthy. What is a goal to be wealthy, right? I want to own a corporation that generates $250,000 of revenue a month. Okay. That's going to help make me wealthy. It really is. But that's an absolute goal. I can look at that. I can measure it. Okay. How do I goal the plans? Well, I've got to generate the first dollar before I generate 250,000. But let's set out the plan to generate the first dollar. Let's set out my industry. What am I going to work in? So you start doing it. And then the plans to set up a corporation and set up digital products online, okay, that becomes an executable. Now I got to make the digital products. Okay, how do I make the digital product? Well, the digital product has, let's use my video course for it, right? It has 2 hours of video. I got to film, record, edit, voiceover and do all that work for 2 hours of lesson plans and organize them and build an online workbook. Okay, that translates to 14 steps, right? Guess what? Those 14 steps become calendar appointments. Now I've just translated the goal of being wealthy to a series of calendar appointments. So now all my ass has to do every day is get up and execute the task in front of me and I will be wealthy. You see how that works? It's a brilliant strategy. It works for anything. We've got long episodes on it. I just wanted to lay it out today so that you're in this a little bit longer than normal episode, but I think you're important. I think you're worth it. And I want to make sure everybody understands that none of this requires a monetary investment, right? None of it. Taking responsibility for your own self, your physical, your mental, and your financial health costs no money. It just costs you in the mirror and accepting responsibility. And when you do that, you are then in a exceptionally better position when panic comes, when chaos comes, when the next pandemic comes, when the next recession comes, when global conflict comes to your door, and you are ready to go because you're physically robust, you're mentally robust, and you're financially sound. Because nobody's coming to help you, and it's not somebody else's job to rescue you. That's the point. So thank you very much for listening to this episode. Hopefully something in here will gear you, punch you, etc. And if you don't like what I had to say, drop us a line at insidemycanoehead.ca. There's a link there to go over to my website and drop me an email at jeff@preparednesslabs.ca. And it's Jeff because that's me. You're sending an email directly to me and you will get an answer directly from me to you for your comments and questions. That's because I believe podcasters like myself and entrepreneurs like myself need to be available on a one-on-one basis to anybody who wants to interact with us. So there it is. You have my email. Send me an email. Tell me what you think, good, bad, or indifferent. If you love this podcast, over at insidemycanoehead.ca, there's a button there for Buy Me a Coffee. You can contribute $5 Canadian and a lot less American to a cup of coffee for me. If you don't want to do that, hop over to Apple Podcast or wherever you download this podcast and give me a great review. If you don't want to do that, hop over to YouTube where this has an audio channel and kick a like and a subscribe. And if in the end you don't even want to do that, then just do me a favor, my friend. Tell somebody about it. Tell somebody else to download an episode and give us an opinion. That's it. Spread the word. Everything here at InsideMyCanoehead.ca and on this podcast will be free and free forever, because this is our community service to help you adopt a prepared life, to take responsibility for your outcomes, and to navigate the next exogenous shock. Listen, none of us enjoyed the pandemic. None of us enjoyed March of 2020 and the uncertainty and the uncomfortableness and the overarching control exerted by our governments. None of us enjoyed that. Let's not set ourselves up for that kind of failure again. So thanks again for joining us at Inside My Canoe Head. We appreciate everything. Take care. Stay safe.